do like Raylan's. How does he put it? He says, "I wouldn't call it a tendency."
Yeah.
So, but
I think that does sets up a little bit of what happens like next season, as far as what, because Raylan, if you're an outsider looking in, he's a wild cat, or what is it, a loose cannon, or
loose
whatever.
Cannon. Yeah. He looks. So. Yeah, if you're on the outside looking in and you're not privy to everything he's doing and what's inside his head all the time, like we are as the viewer. Yeah. He definitely looks shady as hell.
Yeah.
Everyone he's involved with, everyone he deals with is a bad, like on the wrong side of the law. So,
yeah. And at a certain point, you can't, like Art, like it comes across as, well, he did suspend him, but it's almost as if Art lets him slide, which I think Rachel kind of resents.
Yeah.
Like it's, and there's that weird dynamic also, as far as like, like even in the very first season, Rachel, I don't know if she really let it show, but there is like maybe he just slides it to the top of the totem pole when he arrives at that office.
That's that episode where they go to California together, right? That's when she talks about how you came in and you immediately slot in as number 2, and you wear that hat around and that shit kicker grin of yours and those cowboy boots, and if I did any of that, do you know what would happen to me? Like, she's got a great point.
Yeah.
She's black and a woman. She's got 2 uphill battles she's fighting.
Yeah.
So we get a quick scene with Dewey and Daryl. So cousin Daryl, we saw him arrive at the end of the last episode. And now it's morning, and he's up having his breakfast and asking Dewey some questions. And what do we find out? So Daryl tells Dewey, "Hey, I'm free to come and go as I please. I worked with Raylan, in fact, and got my probation lifted, so I don't need to stay in the state of Florida. I'm fine to be here." And he finds out they make about $500 or $600 a week, each and every week, by the way, at Audrey's turning tricks. And that Dewey paid $250,000 for the business from Boyd. And Daryl tells him, "Hey, look, you got ripped off, man. There's a restaurant in Corbin selling for $125,000. And what does he say? He says, "Now I understand this place doesn't have quite the same curb appeal that has." But it still shouldn't have been $250,000. And so he tells Dewey, "Go back to Boyd, ask him for $100,000 back, give me half of it, and I'll leave town. I'll do whatever you want me to do. I'll be gone. I'm a ghost." And Dewey is left trying to figure out, how am I going to get $100,000 back from Boyd? Which the short answer to that is you're not. I don't know what you think you're going to be able to do, but and then when Rachel hears the story of Monroe sending a guy, she's immediately suspicious. She's like, "Wait a minute, this doesn't sound right." Right as she's starting to kind of put 2 and 2 together that Raylan doesn't really know what he's talking about with regard to who this guy was, Alison shows up. Raylan explains, "Hey, we can't use this place as our fuck pad anymore because I have a roommate now, total buzzkill." And Alison hears the details of what happened, and she immediately knows who it was. She immediately knows that it's Henry Granger, who lost his kids. She was the social worker who was involved in that. And so Raylan goes and tracks down Henry Granger. And he claims basically, he claims he wasn't the greatest father, but he also didn't bring meth around his kids. So when they found meth on the kid, it was because Alison planted it there, not because he brought it home from his meth cooking job that he did. And that she did that because she wanted to get his kids taken away because he was a bad father in other ways, but was not bad enough to have the kids taken away, is basically what he's alleging. And so Raylan kind of handles that very nonchalantly, I think. Like, for Raylan, these situations always the ends justify the means. Like his perspective is, well, you shouldn't have a kid because you're an abusive drug manufacturer. So she just got you to where you should have been anyway without your kid. But I mean, again, when he tells Rachel about this, she's rightly concerned that he's hanging out with this person who seems to be a little too friendly with the dark side of the law.
Yeah. Well, it's not like Raylan isn't unfriendly.
No, it's true. I would say, it almost feels like what they're doing in this season is like they're saying, hey, look, Raylan opened himself up to his dark side at the end of season 4. And now he's sort of starting to let it consume him a little bit, like he enjoyed opening himself up to the dark side. And so now he's dancing with it a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's a good point. I mean, that would go with some of the imagery that we see, even, I don't want to get too far ahead in this episode, but like at that ending episode where it's him and Alison and they're talking in the office and just the different things that the different things of what's composed of that scene. I think it kind of points to that.
For sure it does. So he tells her, to the harasser, that he can't bother Alison anymore. And that if he ever wants to see his kids again, he better not, because it's going to go a whole different way if he shows up again and bothers her and Raylan's around. So he threatens him. The guy seems like he'll take the hint and not get back involved. So we'll see what happens there on that story.
Now, how did he find out that Alison was there? He followed her?
I think he must have followed her. Yeah. They don't ever detail that, but I think he must have just followed her and found her there.
Yeah.
Because he knew she was inside, or he knew that she was inside at some point. So,
yeah.
So then Boyd goes to visit Ava, and that's a fun little conversation, right? Because Boyd sits down and immediately says, I need to find this whore who robbed us, who is responsible for us getting robbed. And she does this thing with Candy. Do you know who she is? And Ava's like, you gonna ask how I am or how it's going in here? Or are you going to tell me what you're doing to get me out or any of that? Or do you just need to know about the whore? And Boyd's like, hey, look, show me a little appreciation and tell me about the whore. It's really something. Like, their relationship is deteriorating rapidly.
Yeah.
And so she does eventually tell him about the whore. And there's a great moment where Ava's like, boy, based on what you're doing so far to get me out of here, maybe I'm better off relying on him. And she gestures at the lawyer, and the lawyer sees that she gestures at him and takes his headphones off. And Boyd says, put those back on or I'm going to staple them to your head. And then Boyd makes him turn around. He's just so put upon. It's so funny, the way they treat the lawyer in the room there.
Yeah.
So yeah, the conversation culminates, and when we talk about their relationship deteriorating, the conversation culminates in Boyd basically saying, hey, look, it's kind of your fault that you're in here. You didn't listen to me when I told you about the body. You then also, killed Delroy, which is kind of entirely on you. That doesn't have anything to do with me. I, in fact, told you not to do that. So you're kind of in here because of your own actions. And he's not wrong, but as somebody who's been married for, almost 20 years, I would strongly recommend not suggesting that when your significant other has been locked up in jail. Like, ultimately, it's really your fault that you're here. I think women can get away with that. Men cannot get away with that.
I wonder. I always wonder, because I've never been married, but that's where you walk away.
Right.
It's terrible. Huh?
You're like, you know what? You're right. This is a really bad circumstance. I'm sorry this happened to you.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm doing to get you out. Not,
Yeah.
it's kind of your fault that you're here. So really, how about some goddamn gratitude? Huh?
Well, Boyd is just so focused on getting her out. He could have turned it around and said, "Look, I'm just so focused on getting you out, and this is what needs to happen." Sorry.
Yeah. Well, that's really because we know Boyd's focused on literally everything else, not actually getting her out. but that's what he's been so successful with up until this point, is saying, "Hey, look, I'm so focused on this. Look, I can't even pay attention to my business. I get robbed because I'm so focused on figuring out how to get you out of here." So that would have worked.
Yeah.
What he did not work. So we get the scene with Monroe and his girlfriend, right? The maid. I guess she's technically the maid, or at least that's what he calls her. And he's questioning her about the man who came to the house. So again, very Elmore Leonard, right? You've got the guy who came to the house was there for Alison. But Raylan immediately assumes he was there for him, sent by Monroe. And Monroe assumes that he was there to steal from Monroe, sent by somebody else. And so he's interrogating his girlfriend, and he thinks she set it up so that she could rob him. So basically distract the guy in the front, sneak in the back, steal the gold. And he chokes her until she passes out. And then he wakes her up and she's like, "No, that's not what happened. Here's what we could do, blah, blah, blah." And then he smothers her with a pillow until she stops moving, and then slaps her a little bit and she wakes up again. So he basically kills her twice in one scene before he slaps her awake. And when she comes to, she says, "Hey, wait a minute. Didn't Win Duffy install your security system?" And he's like, "Yeah, so what?" He's like, "Well, if he knows you have a hidden safe, he knows that you've got something valuable that might go in the hidden safe. Maybe he would be interested in that if you got arrested." And so Monroe is like, "Oh, crap. Maybe Win Duffy's going to steal from me." And we talked about Raylan and Rachel bickering like an old married couple. Well, that's what they're doing when Gloria shows up. And she says, "Hey, I need to check on the koi because they're worth $100,000. What Raylan calls the big goldfish." And she gets access to the property. And what she's really there to do is raid the safe for gold bars. And she manages to get the safe open, starts to take the bars out, and Raylan and Rachel immediately descend on her and say, "Hey, we knew, what you were up to." And then Raylan's like, "I want you to call Monroe and tell him the safe was empty when you got here." And the girlfriend is like, whoa, no, because he's going to kill me if I do that because he thinks that I stole from him. But Raylan and Rachel basically force her to do it. So she calls Monroe and tells him that the safe was empty, and Monroe says he's going to go kill Duffy. So that takes Raylan down another path. In between that, we get a scene with Boyd and Carl where he tells her, "Hey, here's where you can find candy." Or more specifically, he says she's only ever been seen 3 places. And Carl, being an expert logician, deduces where he's going to find her, at her mom's house. And Boyd says, "That's why I pay you." And then Dewey shows up. And Boyd is not pleased to see Dewey when he shows up. And they have a little bit of a conversation.
Dewey Crowe, your timing has never been impeccable, and today is no exception.
I need a word, Boyd.
Well, it's gonna have to wait. I'm awful busy at the moment.
No, it can't wait. You ripped me off.
I did what now?
There's a restaurant in Corbin with full licenses listed for half what I paid for Audrey's. Now, I can see how this peel and curb they got might hold the price down.
Does this restaurant have blowjobs on the menu? Apples and oranges, son.
You said I'd be making money hand over glove.
Well, building a business takes time.
The business you sold me was supposed to already be built. Now, I want $100,000. I'm not leaving here without it. How about just 50? We can call it a loan. Well, I'll give you a cut of the take from Audrey's. I got nowhere else to turn.
You want to tell me what's really going on?